Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Big up to all of you for being in the chat so early. Big up to all of you for listening. Big up to all of you who are in the chat room at the moment. Big up to Dan. Big up to Matt. Big up to Mum. Big up to Elder. Big up to Ash. And big up to Kevin. And big up to everybody else. Sorry, a little bit late this morning. I had some technical problems with my laptop this morning. I don't know why. Maybe it was just so active at the moment that it needed a break. But yeah, so a few minutes late. So apologies. But thank you all so much for being here. Big up to Jay as well, who's just joined. And big up to Rashid. Do me a favor, people. You know the score by now. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you're part of the community that will get us to 30k if we are in it together. I will be back later on with a show, but today it's for the morning transfer show. For the last one of this week, obviously Saturdays, Sundays, I have a break. And then I'm back Monday to Friday. So we're going to be talking all things football, and it's going to be across Europe. There is a lot of news this morning, so we're going to have to get to it. Big up to Staffy. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go and subscribe to Staffy TV. Very, 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 very close to 5K, which I should have hit last night. If he hasn't, make sure you go and help him over at 5K. Big up to Staffy. If you haven't seen last night's show, Staffy was a part of the panel, so please make sure you check that one out as well. And big up to him. We're going to be talking a little bit about Gareth Southgate. We're going to be talking about Jurgen Klopp. We're going to talk about Osimhen. We're going to talk about João Neves today. We're going to talk about Xavi Simons. We're going to talk about Virgil van Dijk. We're going to talk about Arsenal's, I say transfer window, should I say, and some of the rumours at the moment in relation to Arsenal. So let's get to it, shall we? There's nowhere else to start other than the news that we've woken up to today on Gareth Southgate. Now, of course, on Sunday, we will be in the final, and that is what everybody is looking forward to. But the Mail are reporting that the FA want Gareth Southgate to stay on as England manager, even if we lose. It's right. Even if we lose the final against Spain on Sunday, he will still be the England manager. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing. I think if you win it, you leave on a high. If you lose it, you still haven't got us across the line, and it might be time for someone else. Now, a lot of people will say, that's really harsh. He's done a great job. He's been phenomenal for England. England don't understand how lucky they are. England aren't favourites for tournaments, X, Y, Z. I understand that Gareth Southgate's done a good job at England, but that is as far as it goes. He is not a world-class manager. He is not an elite manager that's going to take England across the line. Now, if he does that, we can shut up. And do you know what? He would deserve an extension if he wins it, but he won't deserve one if we lose it. That's what I think, because nothing would have changed. We would have beaten the teams that we should have beaten, and we would have lost to the teams as soon as it got a little bit tough. So I'm not going to sit there and lie and say, oh, my God, this is going to be a great, great decision for the FA. Listen, reports on Sky Sports as well suggest from the Times that they will launch a charm offensive designed to persuade Gareth Southgate to remain as England manager, regardless of the outcome of the final. Now, listen, Gareth Southgate might want a new challenge. He might want to go. He's probably got one of the best jobs in football. Everybody seems to love him there. He seems safe unless he wants to leave. The players, you've got to say, big up to him. They do like him. His man management is good. His handling of the media is impeccable. I can't lie. It's fantastic. But on the pitch, I'm not a fan. And although he did well against the Netherlands and he's done well in the past and getting us through penalty shootout tournaments, I look at the players and I think he's very lucky to have such a great group of players at this time. So, yes, he's done a good job at England. Wow. You know, but let's be real. He shouldn't really be deserving to stay on after past this tournament, in my opinion. So let's see. I think Southgate is a manager that, if he was to leave England, would probably end up in the Championship, if I'm honest with you. Now, he won't start there because somebody in the Premiership, I'm sure, will offer him a job. But he will end up there because that's just his level. I just don't think he's good enough, if I'm honest with you. So, yeah, I think you're going to have to keep your eyes on this one. If England win on Sunday, fair play if he wants to stay. But if we lose and he stays, I just don't understand it. There's no consequences for failure because that's what it would be. You know, so that's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. Big up to Sophie and the Highbury Squad. Hope you're well. Make sure you go subscribe to the Highbury Squad if you haven't done so already. If you haven't, I don't know where you've been. If Arsenal played like England in the last 10 games of the season, but we won the Premier League, would we care about the style? No, we wouldn't care about the style. So absolutely. I think when you look at it, you've got to look at who we have beaten, how we've got across the line. If he's got across the line, we'll have to hold the hands up. A little bit like Mikel Arteta. If you aren't convinced by Mikel Arteta, because I had Curtis on yesterday and we weren't too sure about where we were at with Mikel Arteta, if he doesn't win something next season, Gareth Southgate's kind of in the same boat. And this is because they've both been there a long time now. And trying to get us across the line is the only thing they've got to do. And if you can't do that, when do you say, right, it's time for a change? And that's more a question, really, than a statement, I suppose. When is it? Do we give him another tournament? Do we give Arteta another few years? Like, it's just like a serious question, really. Big up to Sophie, though. I hope you're well, darling. And make sure you go and follow the Highbury squad. Let's talk about another manager, shall we? Who hasn't got a club at the moment, who is being linked with clubs. Now, the USA have made former manager of Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, their top candidate to replace the USA manager. Now, Klopp is not interested in the role, apparently. Would like to take a break from management, which is, let's be real, why he left Liverpool in the first place. So where is this one going to lead to? I can understand why USA are looking at Jurgen Klopp. He is probably the best manager who is currently available. Well, he is the best manager in world football who is currently available right now. So that one is definitely going to be one to look out for. But apparently, according to Team Talk, Germany also are looking at him. Now, at the moment, Julian Nagelsmann's there, and I don't think he's done a horrendously bad job since he's been there, and he has only recently just joined. But if Klopp was to put himself available and Germany were to come in for him, I think that's probably the favourite place for him to go, because he still gets a little bit more of a break from an international to club. It's very, very different. So I think watch the space on Jurgen Klopp. I'd absolutely love him as the next England manager. I think he'd be a phenomenal choice. And I know that people might look at that and go, oh, I don't want a foreign manager. I don't want a German manager. Let's just grow up, man. Like, if you get the best manager available, right? Jurgen Klopp, I think, will take a break from football. I really do. I believe he'll be, a few months, maybe a year out of the game. And then he'll, refresh, recover, and then take a look at his career and see if he wants another job. And I don't think he'll ever come into the Premier League again, because I think of his relationship with Liverpool and how much he had love for Liverpool. I think is something that will never see him return to the Premier League. But I'm a huge fan of him, man. He's been one of the best managers, in my opinion, in Premier League history. So, yeah, we'll see where we are with Jurgen Klopp. I think it could be an interesting one in the coming weeks. Let's move abroad, because apparently PSG are splashing the cash, or at least trying to splash the cash. This guy is being massively linked with PSG. Of course, we're talking about Victor Osimhen. Now, apparently, they have offered a whopping £170 million to sign both Victor Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia. Now, we know both from Napoli how good these guys were in the season before the one just gone. Won Napoli the league basically together. Osimhen's goals, Kvaratskhelia's assisting and goals. He was superb for Georgia in the Euros. I thought he was one of their best players. And we've all been talking about where Osimhen could go. And if I'm honest with you, I've always had PSG in the back of my mind. As soon as Mbappe was rumoured to go to Real Madrid, I really expected to see this guy linked heavily, or more heavily, with PSG than he has until now. And now we're starting to see it. I honestly believe that this could happen. I know Chelsea and Arsenal have been sniffing around Osimhen, but I believe that PSG would be suited for him. I think they'd pay more wages for him. I think they'd be offering the money because they've obviously got it more. I think Arsenal and Chelsea would be trying to get Osimhen on the cheap. And I think PSG, as we know, will happily splash the cash. Now, it doesn't mean that he's going to accept this offer of 170 million. Kvaratskhelia is actually going to be similar, they reckon, price-wise to Osimhen. So it might take closer to £200 million. But if this is to be believed, PSG are really interested in both these players. And for 170 million, Napoli probably aren't going to say no. Now, they've just got Conte in at Napoli. He probably won't want to lose both these players. But at the same time, if they're going to receive close to £200 million for a budget, then I imagine Conte will probably be happy with that. There's rumours that Lukaku might be going back to Napoli. So I would have thought that they would have tried to look at the Osimhen deal there and said, we'll give you money plus Lukaku. because Conte and Lukaku are like, well, they've been together everywhere, haven't they? They've formed that relationship at Inter Milan, and they wanted to try and take that forward with them, and haven't yet been able to. But this one has been reported by the Evening Standard that the PSG situation is that they are trying to go and offer a £170 million bid for both Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia. Let's see what happens. This one could be interesting, actually. It really could. I think it could be a one that has actually got some legs. So, yeah, let's see. I feel like the Osimhen to Arsenal thing, I don't know why. I've just never really 100% been set that it might happen. I never have. I think it's one that potentially could have had some legs if he was the Osimhen that everybody wanted last summer, because it would have been that huge signing. I'm not so sure. There's a lot of people that are like, no, like, don't get him. He's injury prone. There's other better people on there. Let's just, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens with Osimhen, I suppose. PSG aren't stopping there, though. They have also bid for João Neves. Now, I don't know how much this player is going to cost, but he is a top quality player. He's a 19-year-old who I think is going to be top quality. He looks really, really exciting. And I think as a kind of box-to-box / creative midfielder, he's one to watch. I'd love him at Arsenal. I think he'd be brilliant in our left eight, but I just think he's going to be way too much. He's got a release clause of 120 million euros, which I can't see Arsenal releasing or activating. But apparently PSG are offering 70 million for him. Now, apparently that is more than compares to what Manchester United are offering, which is apparently 60 million. But Benfica want a fee that's closer to his release clause. So that's going to be 90 to 100 million that this is going to cost. Now, do PSG have the money? Yes. Do Manchester United have the money? Yes. But how many other targets are they going to want? Because if he's going to be close to 100 million and Manchester United and PSG have it, but also want a striker like an Osimhen, a Kvaratskhelia, Manchester United are looking at defenders that aren't cheap. How much money have these teams got now? And particularly with the look and likes of the PSR and the FFP, clubs have been a little bit more careful with stuff like that. So, yeah, I think this one potentially has some legs, but I don't think that, I think that could then potentially damage another offer for a player. So that's where I'm at on João Neves. I don't think Arsenal are going to do a Declan Rice and go in with £100 million. I'd absolutely love us to. I think he'd be the one that probably would excite me the most if we was to get a midfielder, other than the big names out there that we aren't linked with at the moment. So out of everybody that's available in midfield, I think Arsenal should be all over this one. I think he is a top talent, and I'm a big fan of him. I really am. I think he's a really good player. But Manchester United are linked with everybody. And when I mean everybody, I seriously mean everybody. This player I thought was on his way to Bayern Munich. There's no news yet of confirmation. But Manchester United are now in the mix. And we are talking about the guy who scored the other night against England, Xavi Simons. I'm a big fan. I really, really like him. And the Sun are reporting that Man United are lining up a shot move for the Netherlands Euro 2024 hero, Xavi Simons. Not sure he's quite a hero, really, but definitely a good player. And it's one that I looked at and thought, yeah, Arsenal should be looking all over this. This is a guy who can play in the attacking midfield position, can play on either wing, and I think has been fantastic for the last season or two when he's been on loan at both PSV and at RB Leipzig. So I think that Bayern Munich are still favourites for this. I think they want him, and I think they've made it clear that they want him. The other club now interested are Manchester United. And of course, Arne Slot at Liverpool is going to be looking at some of his known Dutch players. Ten Hag is clearly staying at Manchester United now, and he's going to look at some of the Dutch players as well. So it's not a surprise to me that Joshua Zirkzee, who we'll talk about in a minute, and Xavi Simons and De Ligt are all being linked with moves to Manchester United. That is just something that just happens with the club. So we'll see what happens here. But we're going to stay with Manchester United because they are also apparently looking at the Turkish left wing back, Ferdi Kadioglu. He is a player that apparently Manchester United are looking at also. So I think we need to be real on this one. I don't feel, personally, like Ferdi Kadioglu is a left back. I've looked enough at his game when he's played and the glimpses that I've seen of him, he is very much an attack-minded player. He's definitely got attack on his mind before defending. But United are set for talks with Kadioglou's camp over his transfer from Fenerbahce. Now, Jose Mourinho is at Fenerbahce. Now, I think he's going to want to take a look at him, seeing as everybody's talking about him. But we have to be real. This guy looks good on the football. He looks very versatile. He looks like a guy who can play in a number of positions. But I think he is always going to be weak defensively, because I've looked at his game and it definitely is all about bombing forward down the left-hand side, playing an attacking midfield, playing as a left wing back, as a left winger who can play left back. I don't know. Maybe Manchester United see him as another position other than left back. Maybe that's what it is. But I've got my concerns over this, because Arsenal were linked with him, and I've got my concerns over this. I'd much rather be putting my money towards Calafiori. So let's see if Manchester United do get their guy. But one guy that they have got is, of course, Joshua Zirkzee. Now, they paid actually more than the release clause, which is very interesting. There was a release clause of around about 37 or 38 million pounds that we all were believed, or it was rumoured to believe, that Manchester United were going to trigger. Now, the reason they haven't triggered that is because they've paid a little bit more, which is closer to 40 million, but they've done it in instalments across a few years. So maybe that's clever, because what it does is it with PSR and FFP, it allows them to be a little bit more flexible. So I don't think this is a bad move for Manchester United, because it's not a signing that is incredibly expensive. It's not 150 million or 100 million on Osimhen, or 85 million on Gyökeres. So if this one wasn't to actually come to fruition or do well, or he was to be not a flop but just be an okay signing, I don't think it would be a bad move. I really don't, because obviously Manchester United are trying to rebuild. Rasmus Højlund is the only real centre forward they've got. Obviously you've got Zirkzee now, who I think is going to come in and potentially rival that position, competition for that strike force position, but also there is rumours that he can play wide as well. So I think this will be a good bit of business for Manchester United. It's not one I look at and go, wow, but at the same time, it's one that can be interesting. He's only 22 years old. He is a player who has done well for when called for club and country, and for Bologna, let's be honest. Bologna are losing players left, right and centre because of how well they did. And he was one that did very, very well. Bayern Munich, he did well at, but obviously then went to move. I think he had some time on loan at Anderlecht as well. And then he's obviously gone to Bologna and has done very well. So I think this could be a good signing for Manchester United. So I think keep an eye on this one. He's going to be revealed, I think, pretty soon. I think it's pretty much a done deal from what I can make out. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about where he's going. I think it's going to be Manchester United. But someone who's working out where they're going to potentially be going is Virgil van Dijk. Now, there's suggestions today that after their knockout defeat to England, the Liverpool defender Virgil van Dijk has said he will be considering his club and international future following the Netherlands' defeat by England. Now, this might just mean that he's going to retire from international football and stay at Liverpool. That's what it could mean. But when he says he's going to consider his club and country, that could be an interesting one, because Virgil van Dijk has been the best centre-half in the Premier League for the last 5 years, in my opinion. I think when you look at it in world football, he's probably been one of the best in the world as well. And Liverpool would miss him. Now, Liverpool last season and the season before last, I thought might have seen the decline of football of Van Dijk. But last season, I thought he was really good for Liverpool. I thought that performance in the League Cup final was a proper performance from him that led him across the line for silverware again. And I've always been a fan of him, if I'm honest. He's a sort of centre-back that I like. He's old school. He's a leader. He's calm. He's composed. He's great on the ball. He's been phenomenal in the last few years and has won everything in the game with Liverpool. But where does he go? Where does he go? At the age of, I think, 32 that he is. Where does he go? Does he go over to Saudi Arabia? Is there a club in Spain that want him? Is there a club in Italy that want him? Does he go back to Holland? Where do we see Virgil van Dijk's future? I think he'll probably end up staying at Liverpool, if I'm honest. Either seeing the contract out or maybe get a 1-year extension or whatever it be that he wants. He can do whatever he wants at Liverpool. Liverpool aren't going to say no to any of his offers that he wants or any of his aspirations or ambitions. So I think that he will probably end up staying at Liverpool. But by saying he's considering it, well, it means just that. He's looking at his options, isn't he? That's for sure. So let's see what happens with Virgil van Dijk. Big fan of him, I must say. Let's talk about this player, shall we? Jonathan David over at Lille is being rumoured with a move. Now, it looks as if there are a couple of clubs that are interested in this player. Now, Daily Express are suggesting that Newcastle have joined West Ham in the race to sign the Canadian international Jonathan David. He's a striker at Lille. I don't know how much he would cost, to be honest. He's one of their better players. He's been scoring goals, if I'm honest, in the 10s to 15s consistently for the last few seasons. And Arsenal were very much heavily linked with him a few seasons ago now. And he was a player that I always had a lot of time for. I always thought he was a player that could come in and do a job. I think he's about 30 now. So yeah, I don't think he's a player that's young anymore. So was he? Oh no, he is still young. He's 24 years old. My bad. So he has got some potential still. So when Arsenal were linked with him, he must have been very, very young. So yeah, 24 years old. And let's have a look at his stats that he's scored goals wise. Yeah, he's got 70 goals in 146 for Lille. Previously, before that, when we were linked with him, was at Ghent. So that's exactly who it was we were linked with when he was at Ghent. So that was in COVID year. There we go. And he got 1 in 2. He got 30 goals in 60. So I think this could be quite a good sign. He's not particularly tall for a forward. He's only 5'9". But he's a very tricky player and a very good player. Newcastle and West Ham, they are both linked with him. And I believe that Chelsea are also looking at the situation. So yeah, watch what happens here. Jonathan David's a player that I think most people have been probably aware of by now due to his links away. Excuse me. Yeah, I thought he was a lot older than that, but then again, it's because we've been linked with him for ages. I just put 2 and 2 together and thought he must be reaching 30 now, but he was very, very young and he was linked with Arsenal. So yeah, apologies about that. 24 he is. Wow, that could be a very good signing because you've still got potential at that age. So watch what happens here. West Ham definitely need a striker. They've only really got Antonio at the club and Bowen that can play there. Danny Ings looks to be going. So West Ham definitely need a centre forward. And so do Newcastle, to be fair, because Callum Wilson is linked with a move away. And that leaves them with only Alexander Isak, who we all know and love, but is injury prone. So Newcastle definitely need a centre forward. And this would actually be a good signing for them, I think, and would fit the mould for what they want. So, yeah, watch what happens here. Somebody, however, who is linked with a move away is Moussa Diaby. Now, when they signed him, I was really jealous. I thought, wow, what a player. This is the guy that I wanted. He was at Bayern Leverkusen. Probably wish he would have stayed there now, to be fair, and would have won silverware. But he's done well at Aston Villa. He really has. But Al Ittihad are closing in on Aston Villa's 25-year-old French winger, Moussa Diaby. And apparently is being tempted. Now, I don't know what the rumor of the price is, but it's looking like it's between 60 and 70 million for Aston Villa. Now, I don't think Aston Villa are going to want to sell him. I think they've been very, very impressed with his start. I thought he was fantastic. I think he lit up the Premier League in the first 10 games. And I thought, wow, what a signing. This is why I wanted this guy to replace and give competition for for Saka and replace Nelson. But we are in the position now where Diaby is looking over at Saudi and seeing what the situation is. Now, I always think it's weird when players of this young want to go over to Saudi. Now, I understand players like KDB, like Mo Salah, like Van Dijk, get to that 30 to 35 and think, yeah, let me go and finish my career over there, earn a lot of money, live the dream and play football. I totally get that. I totally understand why Casemiro and if Thomas Partey wanted to go over there because they're coming to that age of their career. But when a youngster of 24 who's just come onto the scene at Premier League level and has lit up the stage, has a season with them and goes, right, I'm 25 now, where do I want to go? And Saudi Arabia is mentioned. I just think that is a really strange move. But money talks, people. Money talks. And that is exactly why people are linked with them, because this is going to be a really interesting move. I don't think Aston Villa are going to want to sell him. I really don't. I think it's going to be a move that would be quite potentially damaging for his career, because let's be real, the level over there is absolutely embarrassingly bad. I don't want to be too harsh, but it is not good at all. So let's see what happens with Moussa Diaby and Saudi Arabia. I want to finish by talking about Arsenal, and we are still looking to sign this guy. Yes, that is correct. Arsenal's offer for Riccardo Calafiori is 40 million plus 10 million in add-ons. Bologna want 50 million plus a percentage of any future sale as the negotiations between the two clubs continue. And that's from Sky Sports in Italy. Yes, they want 50 million pounds. We want 40 million pounds with add-ons. This has just got to get done. Our negotiating skills has got to be quick. And surely we can get this one done fairly quickly. The player clearly wants to come. The personal terms are clearly agreed. Just get it sorted. If they want 50 million, just pay them 50 million. Why are we trying to save 5 million pounds? Just go for it. It takes so long for Arsenal to negotiate this. It really does. And I understand and appreciate Edu and Arteta for what they've done in bringing in some fantastic players. But my God, doesn't it take long? Wow, we were linked this guy nearly 2 weeks ago now. And Fabrizio Romano is recycling his same tweet. Yes, it will happen. Yes, it's still there. Like, let's be real. Like, if we don't end up getting him, that would be an absolute mess as far as the negotiating team are concerned. There is more news, though. Arsenal are linked with yet another goalkeeper. This guy looks about 15 years old. He is actually 18. He's the England under-20 goalkeeper. And Fabrizio Romano has suggested that Arsenal have submitted an opening bid for the Ajax 18-year-old English goalkeeper, Tommy Setford. Now, this is going to be a third-choice goalkeeper. Clearly, Wolves do not want to negotiate with Arsenal with Dan Bentley, which is what I said was going to happen when everyone started screaming at me, telling me to calm down, because we just needed to get this done. 50k was an insult and embarrassing to the player, and clearly they've moved on now to Tommy Setford, who they think they can probably get for cheap. Now, he's going to come in as a homegrown player, and I actually like the fact that we're bringing in somebody homegrown as a third choice that's young, that can grow with the team. I think bringing in an experienced head would be fine for a number 2, but for a number 3 to just sit there and spend what is probably the most important years of his goalkeeping career on the bench, it is just a bit silly, really. So that one is a bit bizarre. The other thing that's bizarre and that's getting people wound up and frustrated, not so much me, but it is frustrating if it takes long, is that we're going in for a defender and a third choice goalkeeper as our first options. Now, that hopefully means that the midfielder and the striker is targeted but isn't back from the Euros yet, or isn't available yet, or isn't looking to be coming back from Copa America yet, or whatever it might mean. So let's watch what happens here. I do think it's going to be really interesting to see what goalkeeper we do get in both the backup goalkeeper and the third choice. But Tommy Setford's the guy that apparently we're looking at the moment, and we've got to be looking at that and thinking that it could be a potential third choice. Homegrown quota, one of the ones easily to tick off. 18 years old, can grow with the team. So, yeah, let's watch what happens here, man. Let's watch what happens. Let's also look at another completed move. Lokonga has gone to Seville, and there is an option to buy for £12 million. I like this move. I like Tavares' move, because hopefully, if they both have good careers and good seasons, then Lazio, who has an obligation to buy for £7 million, and Lokonga to Seville would be a good move. Hopefully, he has a similar career that he did, or season that he did at Luton, because he was good there. And Seville look at him and think, yeah, he's a baller, £12 million. Let's bring him in, because I don't think he has a future at Arsenal. I think this move could be good. I think they're two signings that Arteta and Edu signed that they thought were going to potentially blossom into a left back and centre midfielder that Arsenal could potentially use, and it's just not going to happen that way. It just isn't going to happen. It's not one that I look at and think, wow, let's get these two. Hopefully they come back and do well. It isn't going to happen. But something I hope that does happen is that we keep hold of this guy. Now, Chido Obi Martin is very, 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 very highly rated. And at Arsenal, he has been absolutely smashing it. In one game, he actually scored 10 goals. It's absolutely incredible. In another game, he scored 7 goals. In another game, he scored 5 goals. And these are against Norwich and West Ham and Liverpool and teams that are, in his level there in his league. He's absolutely smashed it. Bayern Munich were looking at him. Italy were looking at him. And Arsenal are trying to keep hold of him. Now, he's a Danish player, so he's not one who's got amazing loyalty, I believe, to Arsenal. His family are very, very, very much pushing for his best move as opposed to Arsenal's best move. So they are, of course, looking for his future to see where he's at. I really, really want to see this player. And along with Ethan Nwaneri, people are going mad about them both, saying that they are going to be top level. We've obviously got some other good players. Lewis Skelly's there. We've got the young kid who's 14 or 15 years old. I can't remember his surname. Is it Max someone? So we've got some good players coming through the youth academy at the moment. He is the one, though, that Arsenal need to keep hold of. He is apparently demanding an amazing fee. I think he wants close to what Smith Rowe is on currently now. And this kid is literally, I'm talking about a kid. You know, he's not even 17 yet. So if he does sign a professional contract with us, it will be for a lot of money. Edu and Arteta are speaking to him because they do want to keep hold of him. And this player could be pretty special if he takes his career from what he's doing now onto the Premier League in the men's game. Yeah, we've got an absolute baller. But we've seen this before. I remember when Dan Crowley was supposed to be the next Jack Wilshere. I remember when J. Emmanuel Thomas was supposed to be the next Patrick Vieira. I also remember when Jeremy Ali-Adier was coming through and we all thought he was going to be the next one after Thierry Henry goes. It doesn't always work like that. It doesn't. So, yeah, we've had players that have come through that have done well, that we think, oh, he looks okay, like Eddie Nketiah, like Joe Willock. But we've also had players that have come through that have done well. We normally get one every decade, I always say. You know, in the 80s, it was Tony Adams and Rocky who come through. In the 90s, it was Ashley Cole. In the 2000s, we had the likes of Jack Wilshere. And then in the late 2000s or 2020s, should I say now, it's been Bukayo Saka. We normally get one, don't we, every so often that's like, wow, this one is the one that's like, boom. And maybe the next one coming along is Chido Obi Martin. There is a lot of people that are saying that this guy is the one, that are very, very much interested in being the next big name. So him and Ethan Nwaneri. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there, people. Keep an eye on all things transfers. Make sure you're aware of what Romano and Ornstein are tweeting. Make sure you're with us later. We're going to be doing a show this evening, which will be a really good one with a great panel. That's going to be at 7 p.m. We've also got a show with lead judges today as well later on this afternoon. So please make sure you go over to Lead Judges TV and subscribe there. Close to 40k. So make sure that we've done that also. And we will see you next time, people. Take it easy. We're out of here. And as always, up the Arsenal. Laters.